must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning to you, and thank you so much for finding time to being with us today. The show is Good Morning Africa. My name is Miriam Mugutu, and as usual, we're coming to you from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi, and we do have so much in store for you this morning. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in today. So I'll just take us through quickly the headlines on the leading papers, and then I'll bring in my panelists, and we shall have our discussions moving forward. On the Standard newspaper, the main headline reads, Raila goes for the heart of Mount Kenya. ODM leader to meet a group of wealthy Central Kenya businessmen to discuss the region's economic development, which the Jubilee government has been accused of neglecting. The story is on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. 18 counties at risk of missing cash. The story is on page 30. Teachers want state to pay for annual training. The story is on page 8 of the Standard newspaper. We go to the Daily Nation. And the main headline, Ministers at center of Uhuru succession, powerful cabinet secretaries whose influence will shape the 2022 presidential elections, whether they run for office or not, and the first among equals might grab the trophy. The story is on page 4, and I see the face of CS Fred Matiang'i, Peter Munya, Joe Musheru, Ukuri Yatani, Keriako Tobiko, Mutahi Kagwe, Raphael Tuju, the CS without portfolio, I think, Eugene Wamalwa, and John Munez. Okay, and so that is what we have as the main story. Who killed them? 3 men, a woman retrieved from the river, a section of River Ruiru in Kiambu County, where an identified body was retrieved. That is the pictorial there. The story is on page 11 of the Daily Nation, and up somewhere there. Reprieve as court blocks a fuel tax. The High Court has suspended the taxman's decision to increase excise duty on fuel. The story is on the back page of the Daily Nation, and why Kenya is unable to roll out Pfizer, ministry unable to administer the jab due to lack of special syringes. Okay. Now, that's interesting. The story is on page 7 of the Daily Nation. And then we go to the Star newspaper. Raila was Uhuru's strategist for 2022. Deal reached to have a joint Jubilee ODM presidential campaign secretariat. The story is on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. Demands and rewards of the new CBC in the eyes of parents. The story is on page 14 and 15. And Medic's mental health stressed as Nakuru doctor moaned, and that is a pictorial showing the coffins with the remains of Dr. James Gakara and his children during a requiem mass at Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Nakuru yesterday. And of course, just beside that is the widow Winnie Odhiambo, the family that died in a very tragic way. Joho tells of DP Ruto over his bottom-up economics. The story is on page 6 of the Star. And teachers to part with 1.3 billion Kenya shillings annually for mandatory training. The story is on page 2 of the Star newspaper. So that is what we have on the front pages of our papers this morning. And of course, we do have where did I see that? We do have a pullout that we have outlining what the government is doing. A lot of things, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been busy leading some development, projects across the country. So we do have a section of a pullout on the Daily Nation today that outlines some of the things that the government has been doing in the recent past. So we shall perhaps take a look at that very quickly. I see Kenya seeks to double local vehicle assembly by 2022. that is a good thing. And a former receptionist, now owner of award-winning cleaning and pest control company, that is also something to do with business and all that. But I think it's really it's very important information to know how the counties are doing and what the government is doing. And so we shall look at some of those initiatives as we continue with our show this morning. I'm joined by Sharon Gitonga from Nairobi. Sharon, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Miriam, back in the studio, my co-panelist, Samuel Tawish, and to all our viewers watching us this morning or afternoon or evening, depending on wherever you're watching us from. It is a pleasure to be part of this morning segment. Thank you.
Nice to have you, Sharon. Thank you so much for being with us. And we also do have Samuel Tawish. Samuel, good morning.
Very good morning to you, Miriam Oguto in our headquarters in Nairobi, and of course my colleague panelist, and of course the viewers who are watching this program in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. My pleasure to join this program this morning, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. So before we get into the politics, because I think that is what we have on the main headlines, I think let us start with this pullout that I said is inside the Daily Nation, because a lot of times we run out of time and we're not able to look at some very important information that I believe Kenyans should be having out there, and then we shall get into the politics of it. And a bigger and better Kazi Mtaani program on the way. That is, a government spokesperson says there has been numerous calls for the resumption of the popular program from the youth across the country following its expiry early this year. The government will soon unveil the next phase of the popular Kazi Mtaani program following the successful implementation of the first two phases, which ended in April 2021. Government spokesperson, Colonel retired Cyrus Oguna, says the plans are underway to relaunch the program on a larger scale. Kazi Mtaani was started to assist the youth, who form 75% of the population, earn some income. The government is currently working on how to make it bigger and better. So we saw, especially when COVID-19 hit, you could walk around or drive around and you could see young people perhaps cleaning and doing stuff. And although this was a temporary measure to cushion the young people, but also it went a long way in helping alleviate some of the economic difficulties that had affected a lot of companies that had, I think, employed some of these young people that had been closed and things like that. But how would you rate the success of this Kazi Mtaani, and judging from what we've been seeing happening, perhaps how would you advise for it to be something that is sustainable moving forward? Samuel Tawish.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you for that question. I think firstly we need to laud the government for that initiative because, for one, it's giving the young people an opportunity really to be afloat in terms of cash. And in itself also they'll be able to tend to their families. Miriam, we understand that as a country and as a young generation, we've been through turbulent times, especially in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. Things have not been very rosy, especially on the young people. And so many people have quite lost their jobs, and in itself means therefore the source of income and livelihood have equally been lost to a larger degree. And when the government rolls out such kind of an initiative or a program, I think it is geared towards ensuring that these people can continue at least having their livelihoods. They may not have the luxurious life, but at least they can be able to buy food, they can be able to have shelter, they can be able to take their children to school. In itself, I think it's a very good move that the government is doing. How it is going to be done, Miriam, I think it's another question altogether. Because in the past, we have had these very noble initiatives being rolled out by government, but few individuals end up, of course, misappropriating these funds that are intended really for this noble cause. So I hope and pray that this time around, we are not going to have individuals who are going to swindle the funds which are meant for Kazi Mtaani or for the young people, so that by the end of the day, whatever kind of allocation that the government is going to have for the young people, let it go and benefit of people. You also understand that we are getting into the murky waters of politics. We are in next year, of course, we'll be having elections. But again, it seems like political temperature is already gaining momentum. And it's unfortunate that some of our biggest political players are already exploiting the vulnerability of our young people by giving them just handouts, and they do not have tangible policies or actions that are geared towards giving long-lasting solutions to the unemployment gaps that we have in the country. Therefore, I think President Uhuru Kenyatta, through his administration, have seen these gaps and they're trying to fix so that nobody, in the name of trying to seek power, will be exploiting our youth by giving them handouts and promising them heavens when they cannot even do anything on earth. So I think it's a good initiative. We just but need to support President Uhuru Kenyatta and his government in this endeavor. I submit, Miriam.
Thank you. Now, under this program, about 300,000 youths benefited from the program, in which they're paid about 455 per day. It's not so much, but for somebody who is living in a slum, for somebody who's been laid off their work, for somebody who, does not have any other kind of, income or way of sustaining themselves, this goes a long way, even providing a meal or two per day here, Sharon. So how can we have policies in place, and is this something that is sustainable? I know the government just started it last year in the wake of COVID-19, and they were supposed to run for 1 year, and now we see the government's spokesperson is saying there are plans to revive this program because it was a huge success. But can we have it rolled out in a way that is more sustainable, perhaps, where there are structures that govern even how this is being rolled out, and policies in place, and maybe in the long term it becomes something that it brings in more youth into having at least some form of income, nevertheless?
Thank you very much, Miriam, for that question. And first of all, my thoughts are actually not so far from what Awish has said, and I would like to start by applauding the government for taking up the initiative, especially now. It was during a very sensitive period where during the wake of COVID-19, where so many people lost their jobs, and the fact that the government came up with an initiative that would provide the basic needs, and something that would be able to sustain the livelihoods of the youths. Bearing in mind that youth comprise of play a very major role in this country. My appeal would just be from the government, now that they're saying that it was a part of success. What if they can first of all, we can deal out with cartels, because they said amount. How much did you say that they're paid a day?
Mm-hmm. They're paid about 455 per day.
I think it should be more. I don't know. There were some rumors that it could be more, but when we have cartels, coming in, and I don't know if there's a way we can be able to deal with the middleman, because I feel like I don't know. A while back, I heard that money could actually be more. So for me, I think it's a good initiative, and we should just rally and support the government and deal with. If we are able to deal with the middleman, I think we would be in a better place. But so far, I think the government has done a very very good job.
Okay, you mean the cartels who seek to benefit from any situation, regardless of how unfortunate that is? Because how are you going to take 455 shillings from a person who really needs it, and you don't even need that money that much? It's just I don't get it. But anyway, let's look at some numbers here and some of the things the government has been doing. So there is a proposal in 2022, proposed completion date of the Thwake multipurpose dam that will provide water for irrigation in several counties. We saw President Kenyatta launch that, so that is underway, and the expected completion year is next year. And then 7,000, these are the jobs that are expected to be created within the next 4 years once a new textile plant starts to operate in Athi River. So that is something that also is underway. And 86,288 metric tons of fertilizer that the government has procured on behalf of smallholder tea growers, and 21,000 residents of Mandera who will get a free medical cover to assist them access affordable medical services, and 82,965 youth-owned enterprises who benefited in terms of loans disbursed in the last financial year. Pick any of those items and perhaps tell me what you think about Samuel Tawish. All right. Mm-hmm. Tawish, are you there? All right, Sharon, go ahead. Sharon, go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so some of the things that I've read there that are underway, some of the projects that are underway, like the residents of Mandera will get a free medical cover to assist them access affordable medical services, for instance, about 21,000 of them. That is a good move from the government's part.
I love the textile. Did you call it a textile?
Or the
something?
Yes, and that will create about 7,000 jobs and is expected to create within the next 4 years. Once the textile plant has started operating in Athi River. Yes, 7,000.
Yeah, I love it. I love the textile plant because in a way it encourages innovation in a different perspective, and the fact that it's going to create more more job opportunities. I think that's a very good way to go, and this should also serve as a wake up call to the incoming leaders that that anything that promotes innovation and where youths are concerned, I think it's something that these incoming leaders should really you should really be a part and parcel of their manifestos. I think also the issue of the healthcare that you talked about in Mandera. I mean, it's also a very for me. I think it's a very key thing, considering that the universal healthcare is part and parcel of the president's the main 4 agenda. So I don't know if how sustainable it is, but this should, just like I mentioned, it should really be a very serve as a wake up call to our incoming leaders, to be something that can be it can be sustained, not just during the president's the president's era. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And there's also, I think, the issue of, the government procuring around 86,288 metric tons of fertilizer that the government has procured on behalf of smallholder tea growers. I think this will go a long way in boosting the tea industry that we know is another sector that has been bedeviled with cartelism, if I may put it that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the government stepping in and making sure they have this, hopefully it will get to the farmers, and cartels will not take over in the middle somewhere. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Bottom line, we need to deal with cartels once and for all, because we might be having they might boost the tea sector, but then again, when the cartels come in, it really discourages the farmers. I was seeing the other day the issue about sugarcane, whereby most of the farmers have just resolved to ban the sugarcane, because they feel like they're operating at a loss. Because when you look at the middleman, I mean, we need to deal with the cartels. That's so that it can also be beneficial to the farmers, not just to the
Okay, thank you. Atawish, are you back? Good morning, if you can hear me.
Good morning. Sure, I'm back. Sorry for that technical glitch.
All right. So we're just going through some of the things that the government projects and things that benefit the people. At the end of the day, Kenyans don't care so much about this politics. They want to know, what is the government doing to address my needs? The reason why I elected them, all right, as we leave the politics for next year, although you'd think you're going for an election in somewhere in November if you look at the political temperatures in the country. So now, about 3,000 farmers in Kigumo constituency in Murang'a will benefit from 280 million Kenya shillings irrigation project. Water, Irrigation and Sanitation Principal Secretary Joseph Irungu commissioned the project, which is expected to be completed by the end of the current financial year. The Matheraini Ndonga irrigation scheme, once completed, is expected to support horticulture and vegetables farming in the parts of the constituency which currently relies on rain-fed farming. That is how you empower people, as I wish.
Miriam, that is a welcome move, and I think just like I said during my initial submission, is that we need to laud government for what it's doing, especially for its people, and more so on fulfilling the pledges that they made during the election or during their campaign period. And I think this is commendable of President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration You've seen individuals who are peddling a false narrative that the president has ignored his backyard, that the former Prime Minister Odinga has ignored his backyard of Nyanza, simply because they're doing this for political expediency and nothing else, Miriam. So I think also the biggest challenge we are having is that the PR team in the office of the president are not doing as much really to highlight some of these developmental projects that are being done by the Kenyatta administration, because in itself, it does just make President Uhuru Kenyatta as a person who is not doing much for the people, and also on the front of the pledges he made during his campaigns. Miriam, to be specific on the tea farmers, I think this is a very good move because again there have been challenging times in as far as farm inputs are concerned. If I got you right, you talked about fertilizer or farm inputs for tea farmers in that particular region.
Yes.
You've also talked about a project that's going to be initiated as far as ensuring that we have an irrigation scheme in that region. We understand that what I would call like climatic changes have brought about unpredictable weather patterns where farmers cannot be able to really do farming according to the traditional calendars. So when you have irrigation, Miriam, I can assure you that these farmers are going to be inspired, they're going to be motivated, and they're even going to increase their production at a time even when you're going to address the question of the farm inputs, because this has been a very challenging aspect as well. When you talk about the seeds, when you talk about fertilizer, when you talk about the chemicals that the farmers are using, and also the market, when you're in a position to address all this, that there will be ready market for the produce, then it bolsters the morale of the farmers to continue doing this and even produce more, not only for our consumption, but even for exportation. So that is a very good move. You've also talked about Mandera, Miriam. And is it a revival or is it a program?
About 21,000 residents of Mandera will get a free medical cover to assist them with access of affordable medical services.
Yeah, that is very good. Mandera County is one of the counties or region in this country which has long been perceived to be marginalized, the northeastern part of Kenya. And I think when we do such kind of initiatives, people do not need really to go long miles to access these essential services. And being part of President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda, affordable healthcare services, I think this is a very good move that President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration is doing in making sure that the people of Mandera, and not only Mandera, I believe this is a program that is going to be rolled out not only in northeastern part of Kenya, but the rest of the country, in places that people feel marginalized, in places that people still struggle to get these essential services, Miriam. At this time and age, we do not want to see our people, more so our mothers, our wives, our children really suffer to get these essential services. So medication is one of the critical and essential services in our country, which must be given a priority. And I'm very happy with President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration that part of his Big Four agenda is affordable healthcare services, and it's been rolled out. You go to Kisumu, you go to other places in the country, and now you're talking about Mandera. I'm very sure there's an elaborate plan to ensure that by the time President Uhuru Kenyatta exits office in his second and final term in office, much would have been achieved on this front and even in the wider Big Four agenda. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. And also in education sector, there's been a massive enrollment of students in technical institutions. This is after state pumps billions into the sector, and the national government a massive investment in the technical and vocational education and training TVETs. A sector has increased students enrollment into the institutions by over 600% since 2013. I know a friend of mine whose nephew, I think, got a B+, and he opted to go to a TVET at Nairobi Technical, just on Park Road. Instead of going to and doing the university, he was called into university because he passed well, and he decided to take a course in TVET. That is interesting, and that is because the government has been very intentional in how they've gone about reviving this education sector and the skills that are really needed in the job market. Sharon.
Thank you very much, Miriam. But on the issue of TVET, I wish you can shed more light to me on really the difference between, is it like government sponsored or?
Yeah,
where exactly?
The others which are government sponsored, but they offer diploma courses and certificate courses, not degree courses. And a lot of them are skill-based, but diploma, and it's just a formal higher learning institution.
Then I think that's a very good move. If I also had an option, I would then go for the TVET, considering you've seen what is happening in universities. They are calling of strikes now and then. But then if I have an option to go to TVET, and I hope this encourages more people to enroll in such, so that they don't have to really go and spend so many years in school. And I've seen people who have spent over 7 years in school, and then if there's another option of spending lesser time and going out and putting into practice what you've learned, and I best believe the system is not so different from what the universities offers, then I think for me that's a very good move, and I hope it can really encourage more people to to take advantage of such institutions. Yeah.
Right, I agree. I think the difference between the TVET and maybe universities is the TVET, they focus more on the practical side of things, even the diploma.
And that is very, and you see that when it comes to practical, I was talking to one of an employer a while back, and he said, you people have gone to school and taken so many years in school, but what do you have to show on the table about your skills? So anything that focuses on skills and the practical based, I think is the way to go, and not what the universities really insist on.
Okay, and on that also, there's also another story on TVET, where the State Department for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, in partnership with Google and the ICT Ministry, will provide last-mile internet connectivity to technical institutions in the country at a cost of 1 billion Kenya shillings. Speaking during the closure of a 3-day Kenya National Qualifications Authority KNQA Council meeting in Naivasha, the State Department for TVET Principal Secretary Dr. Margaret Mwakima said the department has already mapped out TVET institutions that are set to benefit from the project to facilitate a smooth learning process. So the TVET institutions are to be connected with the internet to facilitate e-learning. So now we are taking it a step further, and I think we do have a teacher in the house. He's just joined us, Professor Jared Onyari. Good morning.
Good morning, Miriam, Sharon, Tawish, and the rest of our viewers, wherever they are this morning, afternoon, or then their evening.
All right. So this progress at the government, and I'm being asked if you could just adjust your headroom just a little bit so that we can see you better. Yes. The TVET institutions, and we saw from the government records this year saw over 600% increase in enrollment in TVET institutions, with a lot of students opting to join those institutions rather than just going through a degree program in the university.
Miriam, I don't know whether I have a boat around so that I can be able to demonstrate. Mm-hmm. Education is supposed to be a bottleneck. You know how the bottle starts from down? Mm-hmm. And it goes to the tip. But in Kenya, we reach as a point, and then we say that everybody has to be a graduate. We got it wrong. Those countries which have developed, even in China, Japan, even in Europe, there are people from middle-level colleges. Go to Singapore. Go to Korea. That's the reality. And Miriam, let me just tell you this. You know the way the system of education was designed in this country in the past, and I hope that we could seize the opportunity. We go the way we are supposed to go. CPC. It is on theory. People who are theory are supposed to provide workforce, labor force, and not technical force. People who are having theory are not supposed to think, Miriam. They are not practical people. So TVET, what it does, Miriam, it gives practical solutions, Miriam. You take a standard 8 graduate. After 2 years, Miriam, a standard 8 graduate will be able to make a door. You can be able to do welding. It can be a plumber. Until the more years which is going up the range up to university. And nobody tells you that if you can go to TVET, you cannot rise up and you become a professor. You can go from there, the grade test 1, 2, 3, and after that they upgrade it to diploma. From diploma, from higher diploma medium, you know, they go to master straight away. Because they have got hands-on. And medium in other countries, like now the standard gauge railway or the express or the standard gauge railway or railway, Amatika super highway. If you were there from there, it's inception medium. By the time you conclude that road medium, you are like a graduate.